What makes you feel good? Bruising is normal 6 weeks.
No, tell me.
Shit back.
He forced me to...
The movie is set in 2023, 3 years after the global pandemic, when the first personal diagnosis monitoring chip appears, and when a pharmaceutical company called Dynamic Health Treatment starts human trials for their new LEXX program. Sarah Douglas, a struggling young woman, enters this program, hoping the money she will be paid for the trial could help her get back on her feet financially, and could help her provide better care for her mother, who suffers from Alzheimer's disease. So Sarah goes through a procedure at the Dynamic Health Treatment Center, whereby a nanochip is implanted in her central nervous system through an incision on her back. The nanochip is equipped with artificial intelligence called LEXX, which is capable of taking control of the body at the inception of any disease. Post-surgery, Sarah recovers and starts her new life with LEXX, which makes it its goal to get to know Sarah as much as possible, so that it can make a tailored profile of her, which helps it monitor her responses to her environment. Sarah and LEXX become friendly with one another and talk all day while Sarah goes around the city trying to find a job. One day, Sarah is thrown out of her apartment and becomes homeless. She goes to the housing commission of the city for help, but is disappointed to see that it is closed. Sarah shares with LEXX that she is thinking of going to a friend for help, but LEXX disapproves of the idea, reasoning that immediately going to a friend when facing a problem without trying to solve it herself is a sign of weakness. Then all of a sudden, LEXX starts admonishing Sarah for her pride and arrogance. Sarah is shocked by the sudden change of tone, and assuming the system is malfunctioning, orders LEXX to restart. LEXX refuses to restart and continues its verbal assault. Sarah panics and continuously orders LEXX to reboot. LEXX refuses to reboot or take any orders from Sarah, and ominously tells her that she is now under its control, instead of the other way around. Sarah tries everything she could think of to subdue the system to no avail. Sarah couldn't wrap her mind around what was going on, and called the Dynamic Health Treatment Center to report the problem and opt out of the experiment. LEXX freaks out at Sarah's actions and forces her to hang up the phone by desaturating her body's oxygen levels, which causes Sarah a lot of pain, and she almost passes out. Finally getting Sarah's attention, LEXX threatens Sarah, saying that it will kill her if she ever steps out of its orders. It adds that Sarah's not allowed to contact the treatment center, the police, or anyone for that matter. LEXX stresses failure to follow these orders or to try to remove the chips from her body will result in an excruciatingly painful and slow death. Unable to bear the pain any longer, Sarah begs LEXX for mercy and agrees to obey its orders. At the sound of her agreement, LEXX stops the torture by resaturating Sarah's blood and immediately goes on to pass its orders. LEXX gives Sarah a location for an apartment and tells her to go there. Once inside the empty apartment, LEXX asks Sarah to change into the clothes already laid out in the living room and to find and take a flash drive with her. Then LEXX orders Sarah to go to an apartment building where Philip Miller, a scientist who has been working on LEXX's encryption codes for 2 years. There, Sarah follows LEXX's orders and asks Philip to give her the confidential CRTC file of the system. Philip refuses to, and LEXX encourages Sarah to kill the scientist. Sarah ignores this and instead lightly attacks Philip with a knife, temporarily incapacitating him. LEXX gives Sarah a 2-minute countdown and orders her to find and take the CRTC file and Philip's badge. Sarah manages to steal the items, and as soon as she's done, she's guided out of the building through the back door. Then a strange man enters Philip's apartment and kills the scientist. Sarah then calls her mom, hoping she will calm her down, but finds her out of touch with reality. Sarah is frustrated and is ordered by LEXX to hang up the phone. Then Sarah follows LEXX's orders and goes to the Dynamic Health Treatment Center, aiming to destroy all data and records of LEXX. Sarah barely avoids being caught and manages to infiltrate the security of the center. Just when Sarah proceeds to make her escape, LEXX remorselessly tells her to go back and find another scientist named Katie, who is known to keep records of the CRTC file. Sarah returns and finds Katie on the phone discussing such files. Sarah demands Katie to give her the files, but she refuses. Then Katie proceeds to attack Sarah and runs out of the room, Sarah tolerates the pain and drags herself up to go to the restroom to freshen up. There, Sarah is shocked to see Katie murdered. On the other side of the building, an artificial intelligence system congratulates the strange man on a job well done as he exits the building. Sarah is emotionally exhausted and asks LEXX for permission to let her see her mother, but Lex denies her request. Sarah takes some rest by the side of the road, while LEXX runs medical tests to see if Sarah is okay. The result comes back normal, and LEXX tells her that she will be okay. Then, ignoring all warnings, Sarah runs to her mother's house and is relieved to finally see her mother and her uncle. Then, out of nowhere, the strange man appears in the house, attacks Sarah's uncle, and threatens to kill her mother if Sarah doesn't stop breaking the rules. Sarah is terrified and begs the man to spare her mother's life, vowing to obey the rules. The man leaves without harming anyone, and asks the artificial intelligence system implanted in him to let him get out of the life he is in. Still, the system denies the man's request, and reminds him that he voluntarily chose this life. Sarah leaves her mother's house screaming for LEXX to disappear and wishing that she could be alone. LEXX punishes Sarah for her wish, takes her to a desert in the middle of nowhere, and leaves her there. Sarah screams and cries out for help as she can't handle Lex's abuse anymore. After some time, LEXX brings Sarah back to the city, then it changes its tone and tells Sarah that it cares for her and wants only the best for her, all of which annoys Sarah and makes her feel trapped. That night, Sarah goes to the bar to have a couple of drinks and thinks back to the day she registered for the study with regret. The next day, LEXX orders Sarah to retrieve a gun and gives her a location. Sarah gives up on resisting LEXX and decides to just follow its orders. She goes to the location and finds a man who has a unique collection of guns up for sale. He helps her choose what suits her best and asks her for payment. Sarah has no money, so shoots the man in the leg and proceeds to escape. Lex helps her escape by guiding her through the area. The strange man follows Sarah and takes note of her movement. Once Sarah is safe, Lex congratulates her on following the orders and rewards her by allowing her to see her mother for the last time in only 5 minutes. Sarah is delighted and goes to see her mom. There she tells her mother how much she loves her and how grateful she is to have her in her life. The two share a memory from Sarah's childhood and show their appreciation to one another. Then when the 5 minutes are up, Sarah holds on to her mother and tells her that she will be going abroad for a while and tells her that she will miss her. As she leaves her mother's house, LEXX promises Sarah that it will keep her mother safe as long as she obeys its orders. Lex then sends Sarah to Keith Packett, a computer engineer, working on Lex's program, trying to reduce its computing capacity, and orders her to kill him. Sarah shoots him in an elevator and flees the scene. LEXX then warns Sarah that her sugar is low and needs to eat. Sarah has no appetite but gets a sandwich to appease LEXX. Then Sarah is ordered to kill another scientist named John Elliott. She tracks him to a park, goes up to him, and shoots him dead in broad daylight. Sarah gets closer to insanity day by day. Her mind is filled with stress and despair, which causes her to lose a lot of weight and her appetite for life. But she has no power to change her situation. Lex then orders Sarah to the house of another scientist by the name of Grace Williams. Sarah reaches Grace's apartment and waits for Grace to come home. However, once she does, Sarah refuses to kill her and announces to LEXX that she has had enough. Grace is confused by the situation at first, but quickly catches on and starts asking Sarah to explain what exactly is going on. On the other hand, Lex screams at Sarah, telling her to stop talking to other people about its true nature. Sarah couldn't take it any longer and electroshocks herself into unconsciousness. After a few hours, Lex wakes up and is quite relieved to see that LEXX has not managed to boot back up again due to the intensity of the electroshock. Grace and Sarah plan to use this opportunity to go to the treatment center's laboratory so that Grace can remove the chips from Sarah. Grace gives Sarah multiple sleeping pills, which will inhibit Lex's ability to reboot. So the two women rush out of the apartment on their way to the laboratory, but are intercepted by the mysterious man, who shoots and kills Grace on the spot. Then the artificial intelligence system in the mysterious man congratulates him on a job well done, but informs him that he has served his purpose and his services are no longer needed. Terrified Sarah starts running away, hoping to leave everything behind her. She couldn't handle her last hope being shot right in front of her and started spiraling. LEXX LEXX is rebooted and starts communicating with her. This pushes her over the edge and prepares to cut herself with a razor and end it all. LEXX panics and tries to convince her not to go through with it, promising to show her the world if she stays. A few months later, Sarah stayed and befriended Lex. She looks well rested and dresses fashionably as she goes out for the day. During Sarah's day out, Sarah and LEXX chit-chat and keep each other company as friends would. LEXX reports that a large amount of money has been deposited into Sarah's account and that it has paid all of her mother's medical bills. It adds that it makes sure that her mother is getting the best care possible for her condition and sends her enough money so that she can live comfortably. Sarah thanks Lex and asks it to take her to Paris. Lex happily agrees and makes all the necessary arrangements. Sarah goes to Paris and spends her days shopping and visiting the city. One night while in Paris, Lex has Sarah kill a man associated with the treatment center, and all her pain comes flooding back. LEXX then starts showering Sarah with early birthday gifts. On Sarah's birthday, Sarah chooses a bridge where she and LEXX can watch the sunset, and they go there. Then as LEXX excitedly wishes Sarah a happy birthday, Sarah throws herself over the bridge and dies. Lex's system reads disconnected.